Hello, everybody, and welcome to OpenExO Live. It's really great to be with you a little bit earlier than we usually run OpenExO Live, because this week we have Rajiv with us coming in from India. And so we didn't want to keep him up too late tonight. And as you can see, we got some awesome people coming up in the coming weeks. And next week, we will have OpenExO Live with Kent Langley, as I will be away, taking a bit of a break. And so we will have Kent, who will be speaking to Sharif from Australia. So that'll also be at a slightly different time. So do check it out on all the socials. And before we get Rajiv up on stage, I do just have a few words that have been shared by some of our community members. And I'll start with this one, which comes from Suman. And he just said, Rajiv reached out to me after doing his consultant certification. We didn't know each other, but quickly struck a chord as I noticed his intensity of desire to embrace this space. I suggested him to go the whole 9 yards and complete the coach certification, and he decided on the spot, and his commitment and decisiveness amazed me. Now that he is focused to take EXO to his clients, I have no doubt he will do well. All the very best, Rajiv. We also have here from Gerard. Rajiv is natural in listening and not sharing opinions. He is also an exponential individual in thinking and doing. He has a curious mind and really wants to understand a subject before he feels that he can share his insights and his educated opinion or view or vision. He is a great collaborator, and we already have teamed up with other like-minded professionals to create sustainable impact for humanity and the world. We both have a joint interest in coaching, mentoring, and consulting people, teams, and organizations to create clear insights. And then we also have here from Magdalena. During the training, I perceived Rajiv as always positive, calm, and grounded. He has great coaching skills in the sense that he asks questions and allows the other party to arrive at the answer herself or himself. He has the skills to go through a huge number of reports in a short period of time and condense the most crucial information in a very structured manner. He is a great team player as well. Really enjoyed working with him during the course. And so with all of that, I'd like to welcome up Rajiv to the screen. How are you doing this evening, I guess, for you, Rajiv?
Yes, thank you. Yes, doing wonderful, Kevin. Thank you very much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. And so I always start these conversations by asking my guest, tell me about yourself and how you joined the OpenExO community. Obviously, you've had a fairly long career. I hope that doesn't sound like I'm being rude. But tell us about that and about how you came to be a part of the OpenExO community.
Sure. So I am a coach and a consultant, and I run a consulting company in leadership capability building. And I've been doing that for about 20 years. Interestingly, before that, I had a successful career for about 13 years in the hospitality industry. People find it surprising that I was a chef, but always liked to read. And while I was still in hospitality, you know, whatever that I was learning or reading, I wanted to share. The only captive audience I had was my chefs and cooks. And at some point, somebody said that I'm cooking better stories than the food in the kitchen. So that prompted me. I said, this is a sign. I think I should uh, change my passion into a mainstream career. And that's how I got to be, I moved, transition laterally into HR and training and coaching. Uh,
Mm,
for your next question, you said about EXO community. So I have been consulting with large corporate organizations for a long time, almost 20 years. And
mm,
they have a framework, they have a structured journey for their employees and the others. At one point around 2014, I was reached out to help do some mentoring for startups, and I had no clue of how the startup ecosystem worked or how is it different. It's only after I went through the Steve Blank's course on
yes.
on startup owners manual, where he says that a startup is not a smaller version of a large organization. And so that's where I saw how things were different, and I went into it more as a learner rather than anybody who could do some mentoring. And the
Mm,
reason behind that I felt was that even in a coaching situation where you can talk to people about their behaviors, the context is very, very important. And somebody put it rightly, saying that when you want to teach maths to Rajiv, not only should you know maths, but you should also know Rajiv. And so that prompted me to learn a lot more about how the startup organizations, they grow in their growing
mm,
phases. How do they, what they go through? And that made me learn from Steve Blank, from Eric Ries, and other people who have been in this space for some time. And there, while watching one of the videos, Jay Shetty talked about that if there are three business books you would want to read this year, one is Exponential Organization. And that's
mm,
when I was introduced to it first. I think around 2018 or so. And
yeah.
and by the time, and with all these technologies flying around, and every second day you would hear about something new and different, and it made me wonder, how do these youngsters can wrap their head around this technology? How are they able to do such exponential work? And all those answers came together when I went through this book. It helped me to wrap my head around, put a structure to it, because as a coach, I pride myself in being able to make sense of things or help people make sense of whatever it
Yes.
is. But I found myself completely at loss in this space. So that was like a mind shifting experience. For some reason, I just missed out the part where I did not know that there is a certification course which is available. So that took almost 1.5 years for me to get to this place where I got certified. But Suman rightly mentioned that I was so excited. I just did both consultant and the coach certification back to back. I'm really,
Yes.
really happy that I did that. Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's really awesome. I think you're the third person who actually I've spoken to in the community who was like, "Hey, I watched a video of Jay Shetty. I read the book." So we always pretty stoked with Jay in sharing that way back when. So that's really awesome. And in 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 terms of major career shifts. Yeah, I used to be a pharmacist before before changing, the focus of my life, and I actually think that if you don't have one major change in your career, uh,
right.
come on, then maybe you haven't lived. So I mean, obviously, reading the book, then joining the community. Going through the certifications. One thing about the EXO model is the importance of purpose, the importance of a massive transformative purpose. Can you share about your journey towards understanding your MTP and perhaps what your massive transformative purpose is for you personally and perhaps for your business as well?
Right, right. Absolutely. This has been a very enriching experience, and I could connect with that MTP part immediately when I read about it. And the reason behind that is that when I was in this phase of transitioning my career from being in hospitality to this laterally here, I was coincidentally I was in South Africa at that time, and I happened to go through a workshop with Dr. Stephen Covey, or Seven Habits of Highly Effective
Mm,
People. And in that, he talked about that if you have to be wealthy, you have to be wealthy in four areas of your life. It's not only about money, finances, health wise, mental, spiritual, and emotional. These are the three, four areas. If you are rich in these areas, then you are truly wealthy, right? And
yes.
at that point, I felt that I was bankrupt in all four areas.
Mm,
That was like a kind of a wake up call for me, because realized that whatever that I was doing was probably not aligned to what I'm supposed to be doing. So I, long story short, I decided that I would move into a training and coaching, simply because at some point I felt that I did not get enough guidance during my career planning part of it, and I ended up doing something which I'm really not good at. And I tried to compensate that by reading a lot more. And I was
yes.
looking for a profession where it would allow me to read and share whatever my learnings are as such. And at some point, it was a light bulb moment. I said, hey, this is a good career for me, where it would pay me to do what I love to do, that is reading books and the others. uh, but that was more inward focus towards me. And I realized, after chatting to a few people in my course of growing up as a trainer, facilitator, coach, that there were so many people who were going through the similar thing. And I felt that this is my calling. I should be able to help them find out what their passion, purpose in life is, because
Mm,
that's when they can be happy and wealthy in this. So my MTP, the way that I had defined, is that my purpose is my MTP, or my purpose is to create wealth and be the channel of limitless abundance for the greater good. Everybody wants to do this, but they also have a reason why they want to do it. And if I'm able to help them grow and become better, there'll be many more people who are going to be doing good for the humanity. So that prompted me to define it the way that I've done it.
okay, yeah. I mean, I often say to people that there's there are definitely many problems in the world. I mean, I'm quite an optimist, and I think that we are doing fairly well, but there are still a lot of problems in the world. And
Yeah,
I often say that I think, though, that there's one major problem, and that one major problem is the ability for people to reach their full potential, right? To
right,
understand what they can do, um, and and I think that through through different programs, through coaching, through that 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 type of thing, people can come to realize what they really can do, and I think it's important for us to try and get more people to to understand their not only their purpose, but actually their potential, what they can then end up doing with that. I mean,
right,
and judging by what you said, it's it seems like it's quite important to you that that we're getting more and more people to realize what they're actually what's possible for them to do out in the world.
right. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it in the last, from the time that this pandemic has hit, and in the last 1.5 years, there's so much talk about 40% of the workforce globally having left the workforce, or
Mm,
they are changing their, and people are really questioning themselves to find out, why am I killing myself for a paycheck? Okay, and I've
yes.
got so many examples of people having gone for their for their passion. And even while I was coaching people, this would definitely come up. As I would always say, that unless and until you know what is important to you, what your values are, it will never be aligned. And whatever that you do, you will still be running after something. And I did not say that more in terms of an academic exercise or whatever, because I myself had gone through that and I could relate with it immediately. And that's why the conviction was there for me to talk about it.
Mm,
And once again, referring back to what Dr. Stephen Covey gave an example, and he talked about the importance of having having clarity of your values. And there was a video where I saw the one guy's holding a flywheel in his hand, and he says, "Think of this flywheel as the change in the world which is happening, and think of this shaft as your values. The faster this flywheel moves, it is important that the central shaft is as steady as possible. And
Yes.
those shaft are your values or your purpose. And if you are grounded in that one, any amount of change that can happen outside in the world, you will still be able to kind of make it. And
Yes.
the context may change, things may change, but those values and principles, they don't change. For me, that was a very, very powerful analogy or example. And I have shared it with so many people so many times, and they get it. And that's very,
Yes.
very satisfying. That's very
Yeah, no,
satisfying.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's so true, because if if that isn't strong, that ends up breaking, and then the flywheel stops, right? And so uh now you've spent a lot of years coaching, especially coaching people. How would you say, having gone through some of the EXO certification programs, like, what are the learnings, and how does that sort of connect, I guess, with the more sort of human coaching side of things?
Right, right. Well, very important question as far as I'm concerned, because I think when I came for this EXO coaching, I was probably looking for another tool, just one more extra tool in my armor where I could use it to help my clients as far as coaching is concerned.
Mm.
But it has been a transformative experience going through this whole exercise, right? And this reminds me of a quote where I kind of read or remembered at that point that a pursuit of goal is not in what you get, but what you become. And I have truly become a completely different person when it comes to this EXO coaching is concerned. The reason I say that is because while working for large corporates and organizations, as a consultant, my focus has always been how can I help the organization. So you go through this fixed format of problem statement, define that, what is your point of view, what is the approach, and how do you go about doing that. But what I did not realize at that time, how fixed am I on the problems of the organization, and they are inward focus for the organization. It's like, how can we make those processes and systems more efficient? There's no thought about the customer. There's no customer centricity. And when it comes to the startups and the new age or higher this technology companies is concerned, design thinking is concerned, for that matter, or your business model canvas is concerned, you keep the customer right in the center, and then you start to do that. And that was a complete 360 shift for me. And I had no problems talking to people during the certification also that I'm finding it so difficult. But at the same time, I also knew that if I'm finding it difficult, that means my mind is trying to look for different perspectives. And that's has been very, very enriching, because right now, if you ask me, I have taken few things. I think Magdalena mentioned that I was able to take a lot of uh, content material in a very short period of time and was able to consolidate it. So it's good for me to be able to do that. There are certain tools that I've been able to work on. But I also realized that I was completely disconnected from the customers or the consumer's perspective.
Mm.
So I'm consciously looking at that. I have learned tools that I can accelerate the whole thing. When Salim talks about that, instead of 3 years, we can do that in 10 weeks time. I have shortened my learning, giving myself instead of 8 months to 9 months, I'm giving myself like 5 weeks for me to get into a new industry, understand the whole thing, and find out exactly what it would do. So, for as a personal experience of how it has impacted me and what am I doing about it, those are the couple of things which are important for me to see what others see as my strength and how it has made me shift my focus and become a lot more customer centric, when it comes to defining problems is concerned. That would be
Yeah.
something awesome for me. Yes.
And so how would you say you're perhaps embracing the EXO model right now? Sort of everyday sort of day-to-day operations.
Right, right. So, couple of things. As I said, large component of my work was being, working with large corporate organizations.
Hmm.
But slowly, I've been working with smaller IT companies and SMBs also, and these are the smaller organizations who probably cannot afford the large consulting organization who can come and give them some
Yes.
insights into digitalization. I feel there's a big requirement, there's a big need, and uh, I'm actively building up a business case for me to go and talk to them. So I've become part of certain SMB communities or forums where they are talking about this, because at some level or the other, they are also feeling the pain of this digitalization or the transformation need for it. But I'm guessing that just the way that I was finding it difficult to wrap my head around it, these people are also doing that. So I have made a couple of presentations. I have made few presentations on this, and I'm quite keen on uh, creating momentum in this part of the world
Hmm.
on this particular methodology. I'm sure there are lots of different uh, organizations who are offering similar transformation uh, initiatives, but I feel that the structured approach, which is there, even when I've gone through some design thinking workshops, but the context of awake presentation, which is so powerful, that is something is very important for people to see and experience before they can decide to move in terms of how what sort of an urgency is there for them to uh, you know embrace or adopt this transformation journey even for smaller organizations.
No,
So
absolutely. I mean, we talk about this decade being the decade of the EXO, right? Where we're saying we truly do believe that within this decade, every organization will, or at least by the end of it, whether it's small, large business, non-profits, governments, will
right,
need to be embracing, the EXO thinking, and looking at the different attributes and leveraging them, right? I mean, it's other than the difficulty of understanding why. Once you see the benefit of leveraging the attributes, I think it then really does allow you to shift that mindset towards more exponential, more potentially abundance. What do you see in the space, perhaps in India or the developing world, or further afield?
yeah, I think everywhere it is the same. And uh, I've always believed that there is, see, when it comes to behavior change is concerned, there is always a knowing doing gap. We all know smoking is bad for health, but we continue to smoke. We all know exercising is good for health. We are sometimes there, sometimes not there. So I feel that mind shift, I mean, not I feel, this is obviously proven, but mind shift is the most important thing when it comes to any initiative's success is concerned. And uh, I'll give an example. Uh, we have had self-paced learning and modules on e-learning or LMSs in large organization. But if you were to go and ask them, they will tell you that the adoption of the self-paced learning is anywhere between 5 to 7%, not more than that. They have all the resources, nobody bothers about it, right? Uh, when we were doing some leadership development program for a large organization, which ran for about 10 to 12 months' time, one of the things that we helped the participants to do was to find out exactly what are one or two things that they can work on, that they should focus on. And we paired them up with coaches for one or two sessions to help them define their goal. But once they came to know about what they need to work on, and then we pointed them in the direction of the resources available within their organization, suddenly the adoption of those self-paced learning courses that shot up to about 30, 40, 50%. Now, I'm sharing this in the context that there are different methodologies for transformation people will talk about. But the value of this shift in mindset from one presentation of Awake is so powerful that people will look at that. So coming back to what you said in this part of the world, I think we are all the same everywhere. I've been talking to people from different geographies. This is same. And again, at the cost of repeating myself again and again, this Awake presentation is powerful enough to set people on the path of transformation. How they do it, how they go about doing that, it could be different for different organizations, smaller or larger or whatever it is. But that's what I would say is the USP of this approach, EXO approach is concerned. I don't know if I answered the question, but I just
no, you did. I mean, Rajiv, it's been awesome speaking to you. I'm looking forward to actually meeting you in person when you head to South Africa later in the year. That'll be great. Yeah. And so, as we end off the call, what is that one thing that you want to share with the folks that are watching the recording?
Well, if at all you have not done it might sound like a sales pitch. It is not a sales pitch, I promise you, because I did see the comment from Suman, and in fact, I wanted to share that part here on the video, telling that I did go to Suman after doing my consultant certification, and I asked him. I said, what do you think of the coach certification? Is it worth it? I mean, that's exactly what my words were. Is it worth doing it? He said, look, if you want to understand and if you just want to do this, then consultant certification. But if you want real transformation of your own, then you must go for coaching. And those for me was something which is really important. Like I said, there's always a knowing doing gap. And I wanted to experience it for myself, that if there is a methodology which can help me give that mind shift in about 4 to 5 weeks time, I think it's worth it. And I have absolutely no regrets. And I would say this is my recommendation. If you are thinking in terms of doing the certification, have absolutely no doubts about it. You must do that. And again, in closing, I would say it's not what you get, but it's what you become. That's very, very important in today's time. Whatever that you are doing in whichever field you are, it will definitely, it'll definitely pay off in the long run. Yeah,
absolutely. Rajiv, it's been wonderful chatting to you. Thank you for joining us, and have a fantastic evening on your side.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Kevin. And I look forward to seeing you in South Africa. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great. Bye-bye. So great chatting to Rajiv. And thanks, Rajiv, for sharing, the actual shift that you had doing the coach certification. It actually ties up very closely to Magdalena, who I know was on the course with you, who said pretty much the same thing. So thanks to everyone for watching. I'm going to end off today's show just with a short video about joining our community. If you're not a member of the OpenExO community, you can head over to openexo.com/community and come and join the 17,000 awesome people from around the world. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Enjoy Kent next week.